Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and do some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another new load that we've never tried before, and it's from a company that a ton of you guys have been requesting to see, and I've wanted to test them for a while now as well. So I finally got a bunch of variety of stuff from them, so we're going to find out what they can actually do, because they should give us some really impressive looking patterns. But for the shells I've got today, I picked up some of these, the Kinetic Gunwerks TSS loads. These particular ones are their 12 gauge 3-inch 2-ounce payload of TSS 9s, moving about 1200 feet per second. A ton of you guys have wanted to see stuff from Kinetic, and like I just mentioned, I've wanted to try them as well, and they should give us some really impressive looking results. I've seen a lot of other people get good patterns from them. I've heard a ton of good things about them, so we're going to put them to the test and find out what they can do. So we'll start with these 12 gauge 2-ounce 9s today. And as for the setup we're going to run them through, I brought out my Remington 870 special purpose. It has a 24-inch Carlson's barrel on it, and for a choke, we've got the Patternmaster Code Black Turkey 665 constriction. This combination should be a very nice performer. We've seen good patterns from this exact combination of gun and choke before, and it should be no different with these Kinetic shells. So I expect to see a pretty nice looking pattern from this combination today. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the turkey target at 40 yards, and I've got the chronograph so we can get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see what these 12 gauge 2-ounce Kinetic Gunwerks 9s can do through the 870 and the Code Black 665. I have some pretty high hopes for this combination. It should give us a pretty devastating looking pattern, so let's take our shot and see what we can get. Alright, so unfortunately our chronograph only read 470. I can tell you that is not at all correct, but these were a pretty hot shell, so I have no doubt that they were up somewhere around that 1200 feet per second mark that the boss claims. So a little bit unfortunate that we didn't get our chrono number this time, but what kind of a pattern did we get down there at 40? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard target, and we got a pretty nasty looking pattern there, without a doubt. We were just a touch high and left, which was probably just me, unfortunately, on this one. But we still do have a dead bird. There's probably close to 10 through the brain there still. But yeah, if we had that centered up a little bit, that would be absolute devastation down here at 40 yards on a turkey, without a question. There is a lot of shot right up in the top left corner of that turkey target right there. And it's a really even spread of them as well. Throughout that entire central 12 or so inches, there really isn't any kind of void in there that I'm concerned with at all. Now around the edges, we did have a couple of flyers here and there to deal with, mainly down here towards the bottom. There was a handful of them. So it's not perfect around the edges, but for that core area right there, I'll take a few flyers. It's absolutely a 40-yard capable pattern without a doubt, and you could easily push that out to 45 and 50 yards and still be perfectly fine. But since we were off just a little bit, I will put up a 10-inch circle here in editing right through the middle of our core area so you can see what it actually looks like a little bit better anyway. But yeah, it's very clearly just absolutely devastating without a doubt, and I really like that pattern, except for those couple of flyers down at the bottom. I don't mind a few flyers, but we might have a couple more than I would typically like to see. But again, that would have absolutely made no difference to this kind of a result at all. If that was centered up, you would have absolutely stoned that turkey right then and there. So yeah, right off the bat, very impressive results here from those Kinetic shells. And now maybe we can fine tune the choke a little bit. Maybe my Indian Creek 665, or who knows, maybe we can go down to a 660 and bring these couple of little flyers and strings around the edges in a little bit. We really don't need a hotter core necessarily, but who knows, some people really like those super baseball tight looking cores, and it wouldn't surprise me if we might be able to get that from these shells as well. But I really like how that pattern looks for a hunting application. It's going to give you a little bit more leeway to work with rather than being super baseball tight, and you have a nice even condensed spread of them there as well. So a very solid pattern without question, and that's pretty much what I expected to see out of them. Now it's just down to testing these through some other chokes, seeing if we can fine tune the very edges a little bit better, and testing the other gauges of these Kinetic shells that I've got, because for a starting point here, that's definitely an impressive performance. I don't think we can complain too much about that at all. I wouldn't hesitate to turkey hunt with that just the way it is right there. And here's the wad from that shell, and once again, I'm liking what I'm seeing here. I believe this is one of those ballistic products, low bore contact wads, I believe is what they're called. They have these ribs on the outside of them, so they're pretty distinct, and they generally perform pretty solid through just about any choke or combination that you put them through. But this one looks pretty well perfect. Nothing stuck down in there, no damage or anything I'm concerned with, and clearly I think it did its job pretty well for us today. So we know we've got a good wad here to work with, so we'll see what they can do through some other chokes and maybe a couple other constrictions, because even though this was a fantastic pattern, I still think we can fine-tune those little flyers around the edges a little bit with this wad in there as well, but nothing major to be concerned with here. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that pattern right there? That is completely devastating. If we had that centered up just a little bit better on that turkey, it would look even better, but that's why we use the backers, so we can actually see our whole pattern like that. So yeah, that central 12 inches or so of that core is beautifully even. It's got a ton of pellets within there, and there's not a bird that's ever going to make it through that kind of a pattern. But I like the leeway it gives you as well. It doesn't necessarily have that super tight baseball hot core to it. It's a much more even 12-inch circle type of core, which I like to see in a hunting type of pattern. We did have a few little flyers and stuff around the edges that I definitely think we can fine tune a little bit, but still, they clearly wouldn't have made any kind of difference to that pattern whatsoever. Absolutely a dead turkey all day long, 40, 45, 50 yards. That pattern's going to absolutely hammer him. So for the first shell that we've run from Kinetic so far, pretty impressive results. And I did have high hopes coming into it, so I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing here and looking forward to trying them through some other chokes and in some other gauges and stuff like that, because we should continue to get some really nice patterns out of them. But let me know what you guys think down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of the Kinetic Gunwerks shells? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Would you turkey hunt with that pattern? Or would you want it tuned in just a little bit around the edge as far as flyers go? And what other shotguns or chokes do you want to see us test with these Kinetic shells? Let me know all that down below. At the end of the day, there's not really a whole lot we can argue with on that. That's just a very solid turkey pattern, no matter what way you look at it. And I definitely wouldn't be scared to turkey hunt with it just like that. So with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm gonna get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.